Hi everyone. Today I am going to tell you a short story and from Vikram and Betal. The name of the story is A Noble King. So let me begin. As King Vikram made his way through the dark cremation ground carrying corpse on his back, Betal began his story. He spoke of a prosperous kingdom named Burdwan, which was ruled by a noble and a mighty king, Rupse. One day, a young man armed with weapons arrived at the gate of the palace. He asked for some audience with the king. He was presented in the king's court and he just told that his name was Birbal and he had come with a hope of getting a job in king's army. To test his skills, the king asked him to showcase his ability. So immediately, Birbal pulled out his sword with his right hand and brought it down into left in such a manner that one of his nails chopped off without spilling a drop of blood. The king was very much impressed and he agreed to give him a job and asked him gardening his sleeping chamber. And Birbal happily agreed to that work. Once, at the stillness of the night, a wailing sound came from somewhere, and the continuous wailing sound disturbed the king's sleep. So he asked Birbal to go and find out the problem. Birbal came out from the palace. He then, following the sound, he came to the cremation ground and saw there a beautiful woman decked with jewelry was just dancing and crying. Then he asked what's the reason for she was there at this night. The lady said, I am the lock of the palace and you know the king is going to die very soon. He had a curse. So that is what brought me here. Then Birbal said there must be some solution, some remedy. Then the lady said, of course there is. Then Birbal asked, what is that? The lady said, well, if you can sacrifice your son just on the temple, Devi temple, in the cremation ground, then the curse of the king will be lifted. Birbal was very much surprised, but then he went to his house. But here the king, after sending Birbal, in disguise he followed him to see what exactly Birbal was doing. So he kept himself a little distance away from Birbal, that he couldn't see him. Birbal went to his house at that night and woke up his wife. He recounted the whole story to his wife. Then his wife said, look, the king is your master and you should do whatever is required for the safety of the king. You should follow it. Then he said, he just woke up all his family members, one daughter and one son, and with wife, he went to the nearby cremation ground, to the Devi temple. When he reached there, he told his son about the whole case. His son immediately agreed and said, Father, carry out the order of your master and I will obey you. You can do whatever you want. So ultimately, sorry. Ultimately, Birbal chopped off his son's head. Looking at the miserable condition of his brother, his sister immediately pulled out the sword from his father's hand and chopped off her own head. And when his wife saw that both her children died, she did the same thing. Then now Birbal thought, what for he would leave? For whom? Then he also did the same thing what his other family members did. He chopped up his head too. Looking at this strange situation, the king felt very, very sorry for Birbal and his all family members. He then came out and stood near goddess and said, "O mother, if for me, who is going to live for few years more, my obedient servant and all his family members died, what for I will live? Let me also die in front of you." So he pulled the sword, and when he was ready to chop off his head, at that time goddess Durga, goddess Kali, she held his hand and said, "O king, ask me a boon. I am very much impressed with your rationality." Then the king said, "O mother, if you are pleased, please give them back their life. All of them, Birbal, his wife, his son and daughter." Then as he wished, immediately that happened. Now Betal asked, "O King Vikram, who is the most foolish one among them?" Then Vikram said, "None of them," because Birbal followed the order of his master, and his son and wife and daughter, they all obeyed to Birbal. And since Rupsen was a noble king, he couldn't tolerate the condition of his servant. That is the greatest thing he did. If a master can give up his life for his servant, what can you wish more than that? So he was a very noble king, and none of them are foolish. The moment Vikram replied, Betal flew back again to the tree. So this much is the story. Thank you very much for listening. I do request one thing. Please, if you really like the video, please kindly subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon so that you can get the notification the moment I will post another new story. However, if you have enough time, please visit to my site thevalpa.com, and if you can give some of your stories, it will be so far so good. Thank you so much.